And welcome back to yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. This week's episode is dedicated to talking about taxation, and in particularly how you are supposed to report tax to the Danish tax authorities if you are using a foreign broker to trade your stocks. And finally, at the end of the video, I will give an update on my portfolio as well. So before we dive into the topic of taxation, let me just put a big disclaimer in here, since I am not a taxation advisor, but one of my projects when I started this channel was hopefully I can show people how to do this, because nobody is teaching you how to do so. And I in particularly want to show how much work you actually have to go through if you insist on using a foreign broker. Hence, that is why it's not worth the effort if you're not saving a lot of money to do so. So let's start with the most important thing. Before we actually go and take a look at what you made last year and how you report that, then you first need to go to contact, because you need to report all the purchases which you have done the last year, and you need to do that before 1st of July. Otherwise, you are not eligible for tax reduction in case you have a loss. And just to make it even more clear here, you can actually go to this web page on tax, and here you can see when you have to report what and when you can expect your documents to be ready. So for instance, 15th of March, then you should be able to see your yearly statement from the Danish taxation authorities. That of course is only possible if they have all your information. So in my case, for instance, they were missing information on how I have reported all my positions from Revolut, for instance. And if we scroll down here, you can see that they have mentioned in bullet point number 6 here that the deadline for sending in your purchases is 1st of July, as I have just mentioned. And you need to be aware of the deadline 1st of May, because that is the latest date that you can go in and edit in your yearly statement to the Danish tax authorities. So once you have pressed the button Contact Us, then you will see this on your screen, and then you have to use the middle one called Skriv til os. So now that you have pressed the button Skriv til os, you should think that you were ready to send your text message. But since we are talking about the Danish taxation system, then that would be way too easy, because obviously, and the most natural and logic way is, you of course have to choose indkomst and fradrag, then you have to choose årsopgørelse 2020, then you have to choose spørgsmål og ændringer til årsopgørelsen 2020, then you have to choose aktier og værdipapirer, and now if you actually manage to get through this maze, now you are finally ready to send them an email. And in here you have to note you are only allowed to attach 10 documents, and if you, for instance like me, have used Revolut, then you know that you don't get a yearly statement from Revolut, you only have monthly statements, meaning that you will have to send 2 distinct messages, because they need to receive at least 12 documents from you. And just to add a little note here, this is the direct number at the Danish tax authorities in case you have any questions related to investments and your årsopgørelse. And I mean, if you thought that the maze was hard to get through in order to send them a text message, be prepared to spend a long time trying to get through here, because I spent more than a week and more than 150 calls before I actually managed to get through and find an answer to the questions which I had. They are so busy that you are not even getting in a queue. They are simply just saying all lines are busy, and then they throw you off. So if you manage to get into their queue function, I hope you have some time to sit and wait there, because otherwise you won't get an answer to your questions. So now that we have looked at the most important thing first, how do we actually do our reporting? So once you have logged in, then you will see a screen like this. And in my case, when I am recording this video, you can see that my yearly statement is not yet ready since they are waiting for more information. So you have to click this button, say Oplys nu. And once you have clicked that button, then you will see the top of the screen, and then you have to scroll down until you find something called udenlandsk indkomst. And what you need to report here is udenlandske aktier og investeringsbeviser. Here you have to press the calculator, and then you will see the next screen, which will be this one, udenlandske aktier og investeringsbeviser. Then in this drop-down menu, you have to choose the right country. And here I was actually not sure what I had to press, hence I needed to call tax, because I'm using Revolut, who is located in United Kingdom. So should I choose United Kingdom, since that is where the broker is located, or should I choose US, since that is where the stocks I have traded are actually located, since I have traded stocks only in US? And according to the reply which I received from tax is you need to choose the country where the stocks are actually traded. So since I have only traded US stocks, I only have to report one line here, meaning US. If you have traded in multiple countries, you need to make a reporting for each individual country. And it actually makes sense that you need to make a reporting for each individual country, because in Denmark we have something which is known as a dual tax agreement, which we for instance have with the United States, saying the United States have 15% in withholding tax, and then the Danish tax authorities will take the difference from the 15% in withholding tax and up to 27% if you are below 55,300 in income from your stocks. And if you are above that threshold value, then they will take 27%, because the Danish taxation arrangements for stock income is either 27% or 42%. So if you have traded stocks in a country where we don't have a dual tax agreement, then you would, as the name indicates, be dual taxed, and then you have to apply for a refund. That is, however, not a subject for this video, and I in general actually try to avoid it, because from what I have been told, it should be quite a cumbersome process to do. So let us instead continue to the fields which is actually relevant for us. So this is the next page you would see after you have chosen the country. So here you can see a lot of different fields: 422, 430, 450, 451, 452, and so on and so forth. So if you thought that sending them an email was a maze, let me go through the fields which I were required to fill out. So we start by 452. Here I have to input all the dividends which I have received within the year from my foreign holdings, and everything on this page, meaning no matter what field that you have to input, needs to be in Danish kroner. And this naturally gives you a couple of opportunities. Hence I asked the taxation people what is the correct way of doing this. And once I have walked through all the 4 fields, then I will show you how you can actually do it according to the explanation which I received. So 452, that is the dividends, and that is before any withholding tax. Then 454, that is all my gains and losses from purchases and sales. Then 490, that is the value of my portfolio in a foreign country, and in this case all my US stocks. And finally 496, this is the amount of withholding tax that I have paid. So as I promised, I will now go through the opportunities you have with regards to the currency exchange rate, because when I asked what exchange rate I should use, since I have a US dollar account, meaning that I am exchanging my Danish kroner to US dollars on different times from when I'm actually doing my buys and sells. That means that you have to go to the Danish Central Bank's webpage and use the currency exchange rate for that particular day where you have done your purchase or where you have received your dividend. And since this exchange rate goes through all the fields, since I need to report everything in Danish kroner, let me start by field 452, where I have to enter my dividends. So if we start with the first date, so 14th of February last year, I received $26.95 before withholding tax. When I then add the exchange rate, which we just found from the central bank's Excel sheet, then you can see that that equates to 185 Danish kroner. If we then scroll down through all the dividends which I received last year and enter in all the different exchange rates and then sum up the numbers here, then the number that I need to input in field 452 is 15,583 Danish kroner. And in field 496, there I need to take the input, which is the difference between the amount received and after withholding tax, meaning that I have paid a withholding tax of 2,339 kroner. If we then jump to field 454, this is where I have to report my gains and losses for the companies which I have bought and sold. So if we start by Tailored Brands, we can see that I bought Tailored Brands 3 times, all of them on the same date. So the exchange rate is naturally the same. Unfortunately for me, Tailored Brands bankrupted, and they bankrupted the 30th of December. Hence, I had to take a loss of 20,000 last year. Then I have Delta Airlines, which I bought on the 28th of January and I sold out on the 6th of April, taking a loss of more than 60%. So you can see here that I have reported a loss of a bit more than 4,000 here. And if we then move forward to Disney, then you can see that I have bought Disney on multiple different dates. And you can see here that the exchange rate has actually gone from 679 all the way down to 652. And even when I sold it, the dollar was much lower with 606. So my gains on Disney was 4,800, giving me a total loss of around 19,000. And this is the number which I have to report into field 454. And finally, we arrived at the last field where we need to input, namely field 490. Here you have to enter the end account value. You can simply see this on your statement from Revolut if you take it from December. And then once again, you have to use the exchange rate. So I multiply my dollar amount, a little less than $80,000, multiplied by the exchange rate. And of course, you need to remember to divide with 100, since this is how many Danish kroner you have to pay for $100. So in this case, I have to report 479,629 into field 490. So just to summarize and show you the numbers. So the dividends are in field 452, and that is before withholding tax. So in this case, 15,583. Then the gains and losses from the purchases and sales which I have done throughout the year. That is field 454. Then the total value of the portfolio at the end of the year. And then finally the amount in withholding tax which you have paid in field 496. Keep in mind, this is the simplest reporting you can do when you have invested via a foreign broker, and this is why I decided only to invest in one country with a foreign broker, because there is so much reporting that you need to do if you try to spread out your investments and use ETFs or index funds or whatever with a foreign broker. Do that with a Danish broker instead if you want to avoid all this reporting and free work for the government. So hopefully you have now become a bit wiser on how to report to the Danish tax authorities if you are using a foreign broker and are liable to pay your tax income in Denmark. And if you're not liable to pay your tax income in Denmark, then I for sure hope that you have skipped this part of the video, because otherwise, well, you have probably learned something new, but I don't know what you would actually use that knowledge for. I am not sure who you can actually impress with that. So now that we have seen how to report tax, and hopefully you now understand why I don't think it is worth the effort to do this if I'm not saving a ton of money with using a foreign broker compared to just using a Danish broker, because it is actually quite a lot of work that you need to put into it. So let's take a closer look at the portfolio and see what has happened within this week. So the first thing we notice is that there's a green circle for this week's episode, meaning that the portfolio is up in value compared to last week. If we go to the portfolio values tab, you can see that the portfolio has increased in value by $2,400 compared to last week. You can also see that the cost stayed the same, so I have done no new purchases within this week. And if we scroll up here just to give you the full overview of all the companies in the portfolio, in case you want to check out the percentage change which have been in some of the companies, now you have it. You can just pause the screen in case you want to have a closer look at it. Then I will continue to my favorites tab, namely the dividends tab. And unfortunately, not a lot has happened within this week, since my new broker Nordnet is apparently a bit slow, because Store Capital actually paid out a dividend 15th of April, but I haven't received the money into my account yet. So hopefully I will receive that on Monday or Tuesday, and then of course I will update my sheet accordingly. So that actually sums it up for yet another exciting week of the Lazy Money Game. This was a topic which I have wanted to cover since I started the channel. Unfortunately, it has taken me quite some time to get the necessary information from the Danish tax authorities, since I have actually done research on this since mid-March, and as I told you, it is quite hard to get through, so I thought it was better to wait until I at least got some clarifications to the questions which I had, so hopefully you can save some time there. So if you like content like this, then please consider leaving a like, give me a comment, or subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out a lot. And until I see you next Sunday, bye!